I would like to, as the program has changed a little bit, so I would like to call our speaker, Secretary of State Nelly Gorbea, to speak for us. So let me go over my paper here. Okay, find it. Where is my paper? You got it? Okay, I got it. Yes. Secretary Nelly Gorbea, Rhode Island Secretary of State, made history when she was sworn in on January 6, 2015, becoming the first Hispanic elected to statewide office in New England. A proven leader who is taking on some of the toughest issues and getting results. She was re-elected to serve a second term in office on November 6, 2018. Secretary Gorbea believes government should work for people. As Secretary of State, she has promoted increased civic engagement and government accessibility. During her time in office, Nelly has transformed the Department of State from a filing cabinet to a nationally recognized hub of information that works for people. She has modernized Rhode Island's elections infrastructure and increased cybersecurity measures. She has developed online resources and reduced red tape to make it easier for small businesses to start and grow. As a result of her work, a record number of new businesses were started in Rhode Island in 2021, despite the pandemic. Nelly has a lifelong passion for encouraging civic participation. Secretary Gorbea worked to modernize Rhode Island's notary public laws to allow for electronic notarization for the first time in Rhode Island. Her legislation also afforded more protections for consumers. She launched a new online business assistant to make it easier for entrepreneurs to start businesses in the state and continues to streamline processes in the Business Services Division. In 2016, Secretary Gorbea ushered in tough legislation to cut down on violations of lobbying rules and make Rhode Island's lobbying legislation system a model for the nation. Before entering public service, Nelly founded the Rhode Island Latino Civic Fund and served on numerous other community boards. Prior to running for office, Nelly was the executive director of Housing Works Rhode Island, which provided compelling information on the need for affordable housing for the economic development of the state. Originally from Puerto Rico, Gorbea is a graduate of Princeton University School of Public and International Affairs and holds a master's degree in public administration from Columbia University. She lives with her family in North Kingstown, Rhode Island. Secretary Gorbea is currently a candidate for governor of Rhode Island. Please welcome Secretary of State Nelly Gorbea.
Good afternoon. It is so great to be back. Thank you, Councilwoman Jermaine. Your passion for this event, for the community, it's so great to be with a fellow Caribbean sister who's getting it done. Can we have an applause? And it's particularly wonderful to be here with all of my fellow electeds. There's another Caribbean woman here, Lieutenant Governor Sabina Matos. There's something to be said about the Caribbean and Rhode Island and the connections here, right, today. But it's wonderful to be here with all the other elected, Senator Whitehouse, of course, who has been a great friend and partner, and who I have great fun working on making sure that the Gatsby is known wherever we go, right? I'm particularly honored to be here celebrating International Women's Day because Hope and Change for Haiti has been such an important organization in promoting not just Haitian culture and the accomplishments, right, of this community here, but also it has been a civic engagement powerhouse. And of course, you know, we're finally back at our state house. And so it's time to remember and it's time to re-engage people in that physical part of coming together. So I can think of very few other events that are as deserving of us finally doing this. And of course, I want to also make sure I recognize Shanavi Shea, who is a dear friend from a long time ago. I was trying to remember when we first met, and the image that comes to me was she somehow transformed TD Bank into this amazing celebration of Southeast Asian dance and celebration. I remember seeing these young women. It was just so wonderful and beautiful. And you're someone who, through the Center for Southeast Asian, has really been an amazing, powerful leader, a true public servant in a very real sense, and an invaluable resource, not just to the Southeast Asian community, but for those of us who are not Southeast Asian, who are trying to navigate what is the right way, how do we best engage with this very important community of our state. And you provide, you know, all sorts of services in terms of financial literacy and navigating government programs like the Affordable Care Act, translation, even tax preparation. I mean, they do it all. And I'm hoping that someday we'll get back together again for the lunch, because the lunch at their place is amazing. So, you know, yes, you know, Councilor Germain was very kind to talk a little bit about my background. And I've had the honor of serving as your Secretary of State since 2015. But many years ago, I was the co-founder and president of the Rhode Island Latino Political Action Committee, and then served as Deputy Secretary of State, where, you know, I've tried to really focus on, you know, so what were these structures of government when I was a deputy? And I see my Deputy Secretary of State, Lamas Vargas, now is also a councilwoman here in Cranston. And what's great about these positions is that you get to see government from the inside, right? Like, and it's an interesting trip. Like, why are structures set up the way they are? Well, they work for somebody, but they may not necessarily work the way they need to for the Rhode Island of today. And so I took a step forward through my civic life to really engage people in participating in how do we change the way government works. And my next job after being Deputy Secretary of State did that within the housing sphere, right? How do we get businesses and nonprofits and developers and anybody who might have an interest in housing to really participate, to be a part of changing the way we approach the development of housing in our state? And I'm proud to say that we came together, right? And we got a couple of housing bonds passed, and we've gotten 2,000 homes built. And what's important to remember that is a lot of times people forget the progress made. Yes, we have an uphill struggle, and Jim Vincent and I have go back 30 years on that struggle, right? But we have to also celebrate and take note of what we've accomplished, because otherwise it's too hard to keep going. And Housing Works Rhode Island not only gives us great information today, but is also you know, a space in which we've actually been able to produce specific housing. So for years I did this kind of work, empowering women and people of color to engage civically, to run for office, and then I went ahead and took the lead. And so, you know, as Councilwoman Germain said, I was the first Hispanic elected to statewide office. And then I had to do what I had dreamed of, which is to say, be the person in the room to say, we're gonna do this different. I get that we did it before one way, but now we really can. And so sometimes the barriers are in the law, and I've been able to partner with great legislative leaders like Representative Knight and Representative Potter and people in the General Assembly to make sure that we change the laws so that they're not barriers to the change that we need to have. I partnered with Council President Jessica Vega in creatively using our voting machines Voting machines, most of the year when they're not being used for elections, are stored in a closet. Well, Councilwoman Vega had a great idea of having a participatory government exercise where the kids in the schools were going to decide what they were going to do with, I think we started at $5,000, right? $10,000, $10,000. What could be done? And it was a great exercise to learn around what possibly could happen through a referenda question. And so they went through all this. I said, I'll lend you the voting systems, right? And so they got to vote on this with real ballots and real machines and then got things done. And so all of that is part of each and every one of us in this room making sure that government is not this thing up on the hill, but rather that of the people. And so, when you engage people and make it easier for people to vote and help them understand the process for voting, we see changes, it turns out, in representation. And so after 7.5 years, I'm very proud to have seen that by doing that work of making voting more accessible, at the same time as we made it more secure, we actually saw progress in the representation in our government. So whether it be, wonderful people and the Providence City Council, like Councilwoman Yerbela Fortun and others, then Council President Sabina Matos, we were able to see an increase in people of color and women come to be able to be seen as the leaders making the decisions. Here in Rhode Island, 113 members of the General Assembly are women, which is the highest number ever. And yes, we can applaud, right, for that one. And more women are leading in the business world as well. I found a Pew Research study that showed that the share of women sitting on the boards of Fortune 500 companies has tripled from just 9% in 1995 to 27% in 2019. Now, 27% is still not enough, but that's progress. And we need to keep increasing that number because representation, whether it be in business or in government or in the nonprofit sector, we need to see women succeed and thrive in what had been previously seen as male-dominated spaces. They have to feel empowered to do the same. As a working mom of 3 children, and many of the people in the Women's Fund of Rhode Island saw me from pregnancy to delivery on many of those kids. I know well the challenges that many of us working moms face. And Dr. Abelard, I love the fact that you've always been a feminist, because there are many feminist guys out there, and I want to say thank you for being those guys. We need to change things. The Women's Fund of Rhode Island did a great study back when I was on the board that was part of my path to being elected or to running for office, which looked at budget cuts over a 10-year period in the state budget. Well, it turns out that female-headed households much more impacted by budget cuts to the state budget than male-headed households were. Now, I'm gonna say that I don't think that was their purpose or that their intent. But that's what happens when women and people of color and other diversity is not at the table to say, excuse me, that what you're about to do is gonna have this effect. And maybe we should rethink it. And so that's really what we need to do is we need to tackle the biases that we all carry by being comfortable with having those hard conversations of how we may not be including others. It's very important that we do this work, and it's going to take all of us to do it. But I believe that our best solutions, whether it may be in government or in the private sector, happen when we have a diversity of perspectives, backgrounds, around the policymaking table. That's the space where you can see common ground so that the solutions are longer lasting. Real change can only happen when we embrace diversity. And, that change is not going to just happen by itself. We have to set it in motion, whether we like it or not. And I know that some days it's tiring, right? But we have to. And so, I mentioned a few minutes ago that representation matters. I want to say it again, it really matters. We need to show up in our communities, have an active civic life, make sure that those boards and commissions from the local level all the way up into the state level have a diversity of perspectives and backgrounds around that table. Inclusion is critical to change. And then when younger generations see us, they feel empowered as well because there is something that they relate to. And I've had that feeling. I've had the feeling of being the only one in the room. But I've also had that feeling of going like, oh my gosh, there's somebody who I know, someone who is like me. And with that refreshing kind of feeling that it is. Because you no longer feel alone. And so, as we celebrate this moment, let's also take stock of the fact that we are in an election year. And we need to have hard conversations with everybody we have about how we're going to participate and what are the tools. Now, we've made it really easy on vote.ri.gov to learn all sorts of things in a nonpartisan way about the elections and how they work and all that. We've also made it really easy through an open government portal to better understand what are those other areas other than voting that you can participate through. And so I want to encourage you to all go to the Secretary of State's website to help you and navigate those conversations. Now, we also need to tell each other in this hard work, thank you. And so I know that there are lots of people here that I want to say thank you to. Because you are making a difference. You are carrying that work forward. And we need to acknowledge that as well. And so, let's do this. We can do this together. Look at the diversity just in this room. Hope and Change for Haiti has brought us all together in a different way, in a different mix. And that's where the beauty of life happens, when we all work on things together. So thank you again for having the opportunity to speak to you today, to celebrate International Women's Day, the change that has happened, the hope that it brings. And let's go forward and make some more good trouble. Let's make more change, because we can have a better Rhode Island, not way in the future, but today. Thanks. For my good friend, so you can humor me just a second. So, Shanabi, this is to commemorate this wonderful day for you. Oh, wait, no, one more without the mask. One more.